Assalamu alaikum, everyone. My name is Muhi Khwaja with the Muslim Philanthropy Podcast at American Muslim Community Foundation. Really excited to have you on today. And thank you so much to Khadija Deen joining us from Austin, Texas. She is the CEO and founder of Should I Revert? Thank you so much for joining us, Khadija.
Thank you for having me here, and assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam. Would love to learn more about you. I think I got to know about you and your organization through the Muslim Philanthropy Awards, where you were nominated. So congratulations on your nomination.
Thank you.
And as always, we just want to hear more about um, who you are, how you got to this point. So feel free to share, about your upbringing, your education, your career, and then we'll jump into the org stuff after that.
Okay, sounds great. So, basically, I guess I could start with saying that I'm born and raised in Jamaica, and I came to the US when I was like around 9 or 10 years old. And I'm like I'm a first gen and also immigrant. So a lot of people like depend on me while being in America. And I'm the oldest, like on my mom's side. So I was raised in a very like devoted like Christian family, like on my dad's side. Majority all of my uncles on my dad's side are pastors, and
Mm-hmm.
when we split and went to America, I found myself like at a really early age having somewhat of like a identity crisis and feeling like lost. Because like uh when I came to America, like the definition of what Christianity was different from the definition of like Christianity that I grew up in.
Sure.
And so I was told a lot growing up, like, oh, I'm going to go to hell, unfortunately, or like, I'm not a Christian because of like the things that I believed in. So that like meant me went down this like a rabbit hole for like years where I studied like 26 different versions of the Bible, came up with like my key findings, and I actually like published my own book based on those key findings to like, discuss like my experience of what Christianity is. And due to the loss of my brother, my older brother, and him just like advising me over the years to like put myself first and like, do what's best for me because I always put everyone else before myself. I was able to, um, just kind of recklessly buy a ticket to Turkey. And I told Allah, I was like, if this is what you want me to do, I'm just going to buy a ticket and I expect you to make everything else happen. So I'm not going to make any plans. The only plan that I have is to go to the Hagia Sophia and take my Shahada. If this is what you want, you make everything fall in place. And I said, like, if nothing falls in place, I'm taking it as you don't want me to be Muslim. So I literally got into I found an Airbnb like maybe like a week before I went. I got into the Airbnb host was like, oh, I could pick you up from the airport. And I was like, okay, cool. So I was telling the Airbnb host, like, hey, I came to the Hagia Sophia because, it has a similar like background story as me, like first Christian and then turned into a mosque. So like, now it's like Muslim or like Islamic. So I was telling them that, and then everything literally fell into place. I got adopted into a Turkish family and everything. And like, alhamdulillah, everything was just like divinely set up after that. So I knew that's what Allah wanted from me. I took my Shahada in the Hagia Sophia. It was a beautiful experience.
Beautiful.
And funny enough, before that, I invented Should I Revert before I was even Muslim, just because I was thinking, as someone that's coming into the faith, there's like an overwhelming amount of information out there, and sometimes you don't know where to start. And I wanted to have everything that I need to start. Funny enough, the Turkish family that adopted me, they were all Islamic teachers. So they
Wow.
were very well educated. And
Yeah.
I had this like Notion document of like everything that I had. And I was like, I don't know how to start, what to do. And they actually looked over the Notion hub, and they were like, this is great. Like, you should make it like accessible to everyone else. And I was like, you know what, you're right. And then so that led me to actually have this resource open for everyone to use. I started a newsletter, and I also started a YouTube channel, and now we're 4,000 people strong. So yeah, that's me, faith
Well,
wise.
yeah. Um, how old were you when you came from Jamaica to the US?
I was like around 9 or 10, 9, almost
Okay.
10. Yeah.
Yeah. And then, yeah, through those years, were you in Austin at that time as well? Like, have you always been there, or you bounced around?
So I bounced around a lot, like within Florida, and then I graduated with a scholarship, like all paid for, alhamdulillah.
Nice.
Um, I did business management with a concentration of HR at USF Tampa
Okay. Yeah.
campus, and then I moved to Austin later on.
Nice. Yeah. I currently reside in Tampa, so familiar with USF. My wife is in grad school there.
Oh
So
wow.
yeah. And um, how long ago was this in Turkey? What year was it?
It was last year.
Okay, subhanAllah,
Yeah.
very recent. Yeah, that's really cool. Okay. So all of this work has kind of been like leading up to this moment, this trip, and this experience. Um, in terms of, taking the guidance from your brother to treat yourself first and kind of do what is right in that moment, um, it takes a lot of willpower to kind of put that trust in the situation and to have it go through and for it to, like you said, like line up perfectly. Um,
Yeah.
how
It
much?
took a lot of fasting too. I didn't mention this, but I fasted 3 months before I
Mhm.
decided to make the decision. So, I fasted 3 months, like, I did first, like, the Daniel fast, then I
Okay.
did, another traditional fast, and then I did a Esther fast for the last 3 days where no food, no water, no distractions. So I took time off work, and I had nothing to eat or drink, and then I bought my ticket on the 3rd day, and then, yeah, everything I just, like, literally just left everything up to God, and I was like, if everything falls in place, and it did. So it was a lot of, like, spiritual and, emotional practices, that I actually learned from my older brother that got me there.
Yeah. And in terms of the trust that you had to put in place and then kind of seeing the things come through, how did that ease and sense of ease kind of feel at that time?
Um, I was completely, like, devoted, and I trust Allah completely because it was more of a, like, I felt like the loss of my brother, like, I knew that what I was doing because my dad's side of the family doesn't know that I'm Muslim yet. My mom just found
Mm,
out recently, like, in November.
hmm.
Um, and when my brother, like, he was like a Rasta, so it's a bit different from like traditional
Sure.
Christianity. So he kind of got like pushed out of the family and kind of
Yeah.
like othered. So I was scared of like, what would happen if I did the same thing and like, reverted to Islam. So with my brother dying, I was kind of like, the worst that can happen is I die. And I didn't really like know the Turkish people either. So when they actually I even like okay, so I got an Airbnb and I never stayed there not one night. They invited me to their home and
Oh,
like
wow.
my whole thought process was the worst that could happen is I could die, unfortunately. Maybe now I'm looking back at it, it probably wasn't the safest thing to do, but I just trusted in Allah, and, I was like, if it wasn't for him, I wouldn't have gotten here in the first place. And I think, like, just remembering, like, the words that my brother said, like, in living in the moment, and, the worst that can happen in life is that you don't wake up. And, like, that was, like, my motto for, like, the whole entire, like, experience. So because of that, I went full faith in everything that I was doing, and
Mhm.
I'm trying to still practice that now with everything that's going on. So I didn't have like any doubts or anything. I just put it up to Allah and I said, if you want it to be, it will be. So I just give it all to you. So yeah.
Well, um, it's really great to see that it all kind of worked out in that way. In terms of, what took you to Austin career-wise, outside of the work you do with Should I Revert, um, what do you focus on there?
So that's a little bit messy. So I originally had So my career path is a bit all over the place. So I started with biotech and I was supposed to be a lab technician, but unfortunately I had some like immigration stuff going on. But when I got that all figured out, I had to switch to business because that was the only scholarships that I had left to pay for school. So I had to switch my major according to like what the scholarships were offering.
Sure.
Um, I was able to get like my first internship as a DE and I associate and recruiting coordinator at Guild Education. And then I was able to transfer from there to be like a senior recruiting coordinator while also working as like a um, project coordinator slash co-CEO for a organization called HGI that basically help bring clean and drinkable water to the Gambia. And unfortunately, after that, I got laid off for like about 10 months and I was like living off of my savings. And then I ended up working at a company now where I'm just kind of just getting by and hoping that the job market will be a little bit better. And yeah, I did like my UX certification and also like my DE&I certification with Cornell. And then I graduated with my bachelor's. So right now I'm just open to whatever opportunities will come my way because of like where I'm currently, I'm not able to help my family in Jamaica as much as I used to, but
Sure.
I'm just looking at it as maybe Allah wants me to realign myself with something different. So I'm just waiting to see whatever that is.
Inshallah, he provides with something sustainable and in your good fortune soon.
Amen. Inshallah.
Um, let's get into a little bit more about kind of the YouTube channel, the blogs, the work that you do. So walk us through kind of the mission of Should I Revert and some of the program and services that you provide.
Okay, so the overall mission is our goal is to aid reverts and anyone curious about Islam while encouraging a supportive and non-judgmental community. That's the most important part. And we offer a lot of services, but the services that have been used so far is the fact that we're able to create a Muslim accountability program, which we've actually had one successful case at so far, which is really cool. For that accountability program, you partner with either another revert or someone that's like born Muslim, and you keep each other accountable for whatever Islamic practices that you guys want
Mhm.
to like or goals you want to accomplish. So that was really cool to see that end up being successful. We're also doing like where reverts if they have any questions. We partnered with a imam like in New York via online. If we have any questions that we can't answer, we reach out to him to give the answers for those questions. And so they could fill out a form for any questions that they have, and we'll ask the imam and reach back out to them with the answer. And we have an anonymous like question form for if anyone has any questions and they don't want us to reach out to them directly and just post it on like social media or wherever for the answer. In the future, ideally, we want to be able to create an app so that everything that we have on the Notion Hub will be like more accessible, like both online and offline through the app. And we want to be able to provide like revert kits to people who are like new to Islam to provide them like with their
Nice.
first prayer mat, their
Mhm.
first Quran, everything that they need that you
Yeah.
could possibly think of. And then hopefully one day be able to also have like the first Ramadan for reverts where they're not like isolated or by themselves. They have to have Ramadan, but they'll have a community that supports them.
Sure.
Um, and we just do a lot of like right now we're doing Ramadan prep. So before Ramadan starts, or anyone that is new to Islam or just curious, we actually had someone commented on the YouTube page that says, "Oh, I'm not Muslim, but I want to try Ramadan for the first time." And I'm like, gave them a guide that we just completed not too long ago. So we have a Ramadan guide for new reverts or anyone interested in Islam, and just a new revert guide as well on our Notion hub. And I think the coolest resource that we have is the Islamic Literature Library. Offers like a ton of free Islamic books, but every single genre that you could think of via online that you could find. And then we also have like, Muslim friendly apps and like a digital resource center where they could find everything online that would be helpful to them if they're new to Islam. And the newsletter is another thing that's been going really well. And we had like really good feedback from just the other day as well, which was really good. So this is going to be our 8th issue coming up. Someone actually reached out last Friday. It's every Friday. We send it out by 5 p.m. the latest, but it's typically like 8 a.m. that we send it out. And someone just reached out saying, Assalamu alaikum. I hope you're doing well. I wanted to express my gratitude for this week's newsletter. Even though I'm born Muslim, I've always looked forward to it. And the reflection this week really resonated with me. The insight on fasting and upcoming events sounds great. And I'm especially looking forward to the Fasting 101. And wow, I had no idea that the first library was a part of Islamic history. So we do a lot of like things for the newsletter, like random Islamic facts. We do Quran
Sure.
exams of the week. And also just like do like a weekly reflection guide for them to constantly think of Allah throughout the week, and just different reminders and events. I actually put the events that you guys have on there every week as
Oh,
well.
thank you. Yeah.
So yeah, so it's just those are the top things that we're doing right now, but it's just me and one other person. So there's only so much that we can do. So yeah.
Right. Those, startup mentality, environment, even in the nonprofit space, can be really challenging due to time and resources. So, really great to see what you've been able to create. And I'm glad it resonates with the people who are beneficiaries of your service. In terms of, have you seen a lot of global interest, or do you feel like it's more local to the US? What have you kind of found out about the people who benefit from your work?
So it's definitely, interestingly enough, global, because on our Notion hub, we're able to see the analytics,
Yeah.
and there's some countries on there that I never expected would find us. So it's really interesting, like seeing that. And on our YouTube as well, like there's people like in Russia and like other places I never thought would find us that are on there. So it's definitely become a global thing. We're starting small and we don't really have a lot of resources to offer now, but I'm hoping like in the future, inshallah, we'll be able to help more people. So I'm just excited to see like where it's going to go in the future, since it's so small, but it's still able to have such a big impact.
That's really great. In terms of building an app that can definitely have its own host of challenges and opportunities. What do you think it will take for you guys to get to the point where you're ready to launch the app or start planning it out?
So unfortunately, everything runs off of money. So, so we would need the money to be able to like, hire the people to do it. Like I have the front end experience because I have UX experience, so I can
Okay.
like do like, everything in Figma of like what I want it to look like.
Yeah,
I'm
that's
hoping,
helpful.
yeah, right now, unfortunately, I'm gonna be working 2 jobs, so I'm gonna be working like over 80 hours a week, like to
Subhanallah.
like manage like being able to help my family back in Jamaica and like some other like responsibilities that I have. So
Mhm.
I'm hoping Allah will bless me with one job so that I could like not have to work 2 jobs, and then I could be able to focus more on the front end. So then I'll only have to
Yeah.
hire someone to build out the back end. That's gonna be, if I hire someone just to do the back end, it will be 4 to 10,000 depending on like what features I want to have.
Okay.
um, some of the features I really want to have is when someone signs up, they're going to fill out a form and they're going to get matched with different types of dashboards. So based on like what they're looking for and what they need. And I want to be able to like have a matching system specifically for like a Muslim accountability partner. So like how this is a really bad example, but I can't think of any other example. But like the dating apps where you swipe and you could like match with
Sure.
someone. I
Yeah.
want to do that, but specifically for like Muslim accountability partners where they could swipe and
Okay.
match with someone based on like what they're needing. And I want the AI to be able to, based on the results that they put in for when they sign up for the app, match
Yeah,
them with people automatically. And there's a lot of different features that I have in mind, but I just have to have the money first to be able to do that.
sure. Yeah.
So yeah.
Okay, really cool. Keep us posted on the journey with that. And, hopefully from the Notion, from the YouTube subscribers, or even your email list, Ramadan is around the corner, and it wouldn't be unreasonable to try to raise five or $10,000 for a project like that. So, hopefully you're able to, of course, take care of your operational needs, but I think a really cool project would be a great outcome. And I think, there's Launch Good, and I think you could find a community of supporters, especially who want to help converts and reverts on their journey.
Inshallah. Yeah, I definitely will be like looking into fundraising maybe like sometime after like we reach our 1 year mark, after like the foundation I feel like is more set up accordingly. I'm gonna start looking into doing fundraising and everything along those lines. Inshallah.
Sure. I think it's never too soon if you have a, user case, and you have your um, challenges and what you're trying to solve, and you can put some effort into it. I would advise trying to capture the generosity in Ramadan.
Mm.
So even if it's a little bit sooner than you had anticipated, it might give you the runway that you need to accomplish some of these goals, and can help bolster that support even further.
Yeah, I'll definitely think about that. I'll talk to that with my partner and see what she thinks.
Sure. Um, is there any advice that you have for people in this space and realm of convert care, revert care? Um, I know you specifically said in a space without judgment, and that's, super huge. I used to work at an organization called Tetlif Collective, and they do a lot around new Muslim education,
Mm.
and care, and all of that transitionary periods. So for people who maybe have programming or want to get involved in supporting new Muslims, what is some advice that you'd like to share?
I think my number one thing is to understand that reverts are like babies. Not everyone's gonna come in with the intellect or like the understanding of Islam that I was blessed with, because Allah always like surrounded me with Islam. Um, so I think just, having the understanding that when they come in, you can't expect them to jump from their life that they have now to like being the quote unquote perfect or best Muslim. Unfortunately, I've heard a lot of like sad experiences from people who are considering Islam and then they retract because of like how they were treated or the things that they were told that isn't Islamic, it's just Muslim and there's a difference. So understanding that you shouldn't force like your own opinion of what Islam is, and always differentiating Islam between being Muslim, because there is a difference. When you're like, meeting people who are interested in Islam or new to Islam, you can expect, for example, a girl to go from not wearing a hijab to all of a sudden being fully covered and wearing a hijab just because she reverted yesterday, and to just give new Muslims like a lot of encouragement and grace, emphasis on the grace because they're new to it, and that they don't have to be a Sunni or Shia or whatever when they first start, because they're trying to identify who they are as an individual first and foremost, and then as a Muslim. So to just make them understand that they could come in where they are and meet them there, and you'll support them. And if they have any questions, don't address it in a way of like, oh, well, you should have already known this already, but address it as in, okay, well, this is my answer, but I encourage you to go and look out for your own to figure out what you could find out. Just because you don't want them to just take anything that you say as final say and believe it, but you want to encourage them to try to find Islam for themselves. So yeah, those would be my advice or tips.
Yeah, I mean, with that sense of curiosity and guidance, how much of it do you feel like conversations one-on-one or group setting learnings that they can absorb education knowledge, and for somebody maybe who is considering Islam, since you've been through that journey, what do you feel is, and everybody's going to be different, but what do you feel are some general things that just help in that process?
I think just one, having the curiosity is like the biggest thing that will help in the process. And the second thing would be, I cannot emphasize enough on understanding that um, every Islam is perfect, but people aren't. And so
Yeah.
you might hear one opinion from someone of like what Islam is supposed to be like, and you ask someone else and get a completely different opinion. So when you're first starting out, my personal experiences, when you're first starting out, looking into Islam, is to try to look for yourself and ask Allah for guidance first and foremost. And then if you have any questions, you would ask those questions, but also remember just fact check for yourself and try to find it for
Sure.
yourself, because sometimes people will tell you things based on their own cultural beliefs and not actually like Islamic
Right.
beliefs.
Yeah.
So like those would be like my number one things. And don't allow anyone to shame you and tell you like, oh, you're not Muslim enough, or you can't do this, you can't do that. Like if they're telling you from like a Islamic perspective, great, but sometimes they say things from a cultural perspective. So it's really
Yeah.
important when you're coming into Islam to understand the difference between Islamic and culturally Muslim. So those would be like my top things that I've learned. I'm lucky enough where I said I have had Islam in my life like forever, surrounding me, alhamdulillah. So I was able to tell the differences because I have a lot of different like Muslim friends from a lot of different cultures, and I
Hmm.
see how they all practice Islam differently, which allowed me to be able to learn for myself like what I want to do and what would be the right way and like what my goals are. So just being able to understand Allah for yourself and understand Islam for yourself, that's what the hub is all about. Like
Yeah.
going to learn as much as you can. So go and be like a curious bunny and hop from different things within all the resources that you can find and ask as much questions, but remember to fact check. So yeah.
Yeah. What would you say, because there's probably a plethora of information online, obviously, Should I Revert's Notion site, and where can people find it? Like, is there a direct URL for your own website that leads to the Notion? Or if you're on Notion, can you just search it?
So if you go on my YouTube, you'll see like the links that I have in my bio. It's the very first link in my bio.
And your
Some
YouTube
people have
channel's called?
It's just Should I Revert?
Okay,
So
cool.
straightforward. So if you're thinking about that, you could type it in, and
Yeah.
you'll see me. Um, but yeah, you should be able to find it. That's the first link that's linked, and on there, you also the weekly newsletter and everything else is linked under those links. But I've also heard people just typed in Google, surprisingly, Should I Revert? And sometimes they find me somehow. I'm not sure because I'm not like advertising, but maybe God just led them there. So you could just find me when you look up Should I Revert on YouTube. That's the easiest way to be able to find a Notion hub.
Great. And then with other, trusted educational Islamic institutions in the US, are there a few that you prefer or appreciate as well?
Um, so I haven't had the chance yet with how like busy my schedule is to be able to like go and get like formal education. But like I said, I was blessed with being able to have been adopted to a Islamic teaching family. So any
Mhm.
questions that I have, I could always go ask them, or like the imam that we have on board for like any questions that I have. So, but I do have like a list, like under the digital resource hub, you could find like under free general resource website resources, you'll see under there like educational resources that I've heard from other reverts that have been really best for like learning everything about Islam. There's Zad Academy and then course.arabic101.org. You could see all the platforms, and like there's also diploma.iou on there. There's a lot of different courses that you could find like on the hub that I have heard like from 10 plus people that they're like really good resources to use for reverse starting off, if you want to go the traditional like school route when learning Islam instead of like self-learning.
Sure. Yeah. And then I'm familiar with Rabata specifically for women.
Mm,
So I think you should check them out. And then, like I mentioned, Tetleaf Collective, they primarily do things in the San Francisco Bay Area or Chicago, but
mm.
annually they have a newcomers retreat.
Oh,
So
nice.
specifically for that program, I know they've hosted it in Maryland, in the San Francisco Bay Area. I think last year they went to Columbia.
Mm,
So, they provide Zakat to make it accessible. But it's a good 4 day, I think maybe even week-long program retreat specifically for newcomers to Islam. So
cool.
definitely try to cross collaborate where you can. And they maybe even have some virtual or online options as
Mm,
well.
nice.
And
Thank
I
you. I'll
think
definitely
your
help.
your services, especially that accountability program, could fit in really well with what they're doing as well. So I think it would be a good way to connect the dots.
Thanks. Do you mind emailing me their
Of
info?
course. Yeah,
Thank
definitely.
you.
Yeah.
That
I
sounds
know
great.
rabata.org and then talifcollective.org, but I'll share it with you specifically after we wrap up. Okay. Any other last thoughts that you want to share with our listeners?
I guess like my last thoughts are none of this would have came about like without like having the support of my friend saying, "Oh, you should make this a business." Because I actually like went about like applying for a business grant before this was even like registered or anything. With this, and I got rejected, but because of their support I was able to like be able to actually go forward and still do it regardless of not necessarily getting anything from it, but just getting the ability to help others. So my biggest advice for everyone is to try to find that supportive community or the supportive group of people who will, I don't know, celebrate your crazy ideas when you're starting off, like when you're coming into Islam or when you're just interested in starting something new. Um, and if you're looking for that support, you can feel free to email us at shouldirevert@gmail.com, and we'll be happy to become that supportive community for you because, you know, Islam is a new walk of life and it's something hard to adjust to sometimes if Arabic isn't your first language or if it's not something you're used to. So I can't emphasize enough on having a supportive community when you start off.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Khadija, for taking the time to share more about Should I Revert and your personal experience. I hope that our listeners take advantage, find you on Notion, check out your YouTube channel, and when the time comes to support you so that you have the funds necessary to launch your app, that they also commit to that. So thank you so much for your time, Khadija.
Thank you. It's so awesome being here and I really appreciate it.
Thank you. Assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu alaikum. Bye.